Coronation Street fans, here's your first look at the aftermath of Theo Silverton's murder as Todd Grimshaw fears that he's already the top suspect. Monday's episode, May 4th, sees a police investigation begin following the shocking discovery of Theo's body, and several Weatherfield residents seem like they could have something to hide. As Kit Green takes charge of the investigation, one of his main priorities is questioning the Grimshaw household about their movements the night before. One theory is that Theo could have taken his own life, which he'd often threatened to do when he was manipulating Todd in their relationship. The other possibility is that Theo may have been targeted by one of his many enemies. Todd bites back when he realizes that Kit suspects him, although the detective insists that he's simply gathering information at this stage. Is it only a matter of time before Todd ends up at the police station, though? Hit play below for a first look at the scene. Gareth Pierce, who plays Todd, recently told us, "There's some determination to find out who has done it on Todd's part, because this was still someone that he loved and had a strong connection to, in spite of how dangerous and horrific the abuse had become." But Todd is very intelligent and he also knows that he is a likely suspect. So there's also that situation where, as soon as you know that you are having to convince someone that you had nothing to do with it, then you start acting in a way that could very much read as suspicious. He continued, "Just as the audience will say that Todd has plenty of motive, they'll also know that lots of other people have motive as well, especially due to the way that Theo has actively isolated Todd from his closest friends and family. We've seen them start to join the dots and reconnect with Todd and try to extricate him from the relationship over these past few weeks. So the people the audience will have been willing to swoop in as saviors will definitely have the spotlight on them. The audience will be wondering if, rather than just save Todd from the situation, they've actually gone as far as taking the law into their own hands." The rain hadn't stopped since the night Theo Silverton died. It lingered now over Weatherfield like a memory no one could quite shake, cold, persistent, and heavy with everything left unsaid. For Todd Grimshaw, the world hadn't just dimmed, it had shifted entirely, as though the cobbles beneath his feet were no longer steady. Inside number 11, silence pressed against the walls. Todd sat alone at the kitchen table, fingers wrapped tightly around a mug of tea that had long gone cold. Across from him, the empty chair felt louder than any argument they'd ever had. He hadn't moved it. Couldn't. Not yet. Because moving it would mean accepting that Theo was never coming back. And Todd wasn't ready for that. The days after Theo's death had blurred together in a haze of condolences, hushed conversations, and sideways glances. Weatherfield was used to tragedy, Coronation Street had seen its fair share, but this felt different. This felt personal. Because Todd had loved him. Even when it was complicated. Even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. At first, Todd told himself he was coping. He went through the motions, answered texts, nodded at concerned neighbors, even managed a tight smile when someone awkwardly said, "He'd want you to be strong." But strength, Todd was beginning to realize, wasn't about holding it together. It was about what happened when everything fell apart. And Todd was unraveling. The nightmares started 3 nights after Theo died. They came without warning. In one, Theo stood at the end of the street, calling his name, but every time Todd tried to reach him, the distance stretched further, the fog thickening until Theo disappeared completely. In another, Todd relived their last conversation over and over again. Every word. Every glance. Every missed chance to say something more, something better. Something final. He would wake up breathless, heart pounding, the weight of regret sitting heavy on his chest. Because no matter how many times he replayed it, the ending never changed. But it wasn't just grief that haunted Todd. It was fear. A new kind. A deeper kind. The kind that crept in quietly and refused to leave. "You can't keep shutting everyone out," Sarah said gently one afternoon, leaning against the kitchen counter. Todd didn't look at her. "I'm not." "You are," she insisted. "You barely leave the house. You don't answer your phone. I'm grieving, Sarah, Todd snapped, sharper than he intended. The room fell silent. Sarah softened. I know. And you're allowed to. But this isn't just grief, Todd. You're scared. That got his attention. Todd finally looked up, his expression defensive. Scared of what? But even as he asked, he already knew the answer. He was scared of forgetting. Not the big things, Theo's laugh, the way he rolled his eyes, the arguments that somehow always ended in reluctant smiles. No, Todd was terrified of losing the small things. The way Theo took his tea. The exact sound of his voice when he said Todd's name. The tiny, insignificant details that made Theo. There it was. The real fear. Not just losing Theo, but being responsible for it. Billy turned to face him fully. Todd, he said firmly, you cannot carry that. But what if it's true? Todd insisted, his voice rising. What if I missed something? What if I could have stopped it? You didn't, Billy said gently but firmly. And even if you had known, you're human. You can't control everything. Todd shook his head, tears threatening to spill. That's just it, he whispered. I thought I could. I thought if I loved him enough, if I stayed, if I... His voice broke. But love doesn't fix everything, does it? Billy's silence was answer enough. In the weeks that followed, Todd's fears began to evolve. They grew. Twisted. Changed shape. Because grief wasn't static, it moved, shifted, found new ways to hurt. Todd started avoiding places that reminded him of Theo. The cafe where they'd shared awkward first dates. The corner shop where they'd argued over something ridiculous. Even the street itself began to feel different, every step echoing with memories Todd wasn't sure he could face. But avoidance came with its own cost. Because the more Todd tried to escape those memories, the more they chased him. One evening, unable to sleep, Todd found himself going through old messages on his phone. There were hundreds. Some mundane. Some meaningful. All painful. He stopped at one in particular. You don't always have to pretend you're okay, you know. Theo had sent it months ago. Todd stared at the screen, his chest tightening. Because Theo had seen him. Really seen him. And now, he was gone. That's when the second fear hit him. Harder than the first. What if he never let anyone see him like that again? What if Theo had been the only one who truly understood him? The only one who got past the sarcasm, the defenses, the carefully constructed walls. The thought was suffocating. Because if it was true, then Todd hadn't just lost Theo. He'd lost the possibility of being fully known. You're doing it again, Sarah said one afternoon, catching him staring blankly into space. Doing what? Disappearing, she replied softly. Todd sighed. I'm right here. No, Sarah said, shaking her head. You're not. Not really. Todd looked away. I don't know how to fix this, he admitted. Sarah sat beside him. You don't have to fix it, she said. You just have to feel it. Todd let out a shaky breath. And what if feeling it destroys me? Sarah reached for his hand. Then we'll help you rebuild. It wasn't a solution. But it was a start. The turning point came unexpectedly. Todd was walking past the park when he heard laughter, bright, unfiltered, alive. He froze. For a moment, it felt wrong. How could the world keep going like this? How could people laugh when Theo couldn't? But then something shifted. Because Theo had laughed like that. Loud. Unapologetic. Alive. And Todd realized something that both comforted and